Good evening, everyone. Is it on? No? There you go. Welcome to the September 26th meeting of the Pequannock Township Council. Ms. Marsh?
In accordance with the requirements of New Jersey's Open Public Meetings Act, notice of this meeting was included in the annual meeting notice, which was filed in the office of the Township Clerk, posted on the bulletin board in the municipal building, published as a legal notice in the Suburban Trends newspaper, and distributed to all persons requesting notice in accordance with Township policy.
Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance, followed by a prayer and a moment of thanks for individuals serving our nation. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Most gracious Providence, we ask that you bless this governing body with an abundance of wisdom and understanding so that every deliberation will result in actions which will promote the common good and the general welfare for all the people of Pequannock Township. Amen.
Amen. Hey, if the clerk would please call the roll.
Mr. Hurd?
Here.
Mr. Cole?
Here.
Mr. Phelan?
Here.
Ms. Winterfield?
Here.
Mayor Florence Lynch?
Here.
We have quorum.
Okay. All right, first item on our agenda is presentations. So we're going to start with the first one on opioid awareness. I'm going to ask the entire council and manager to come up. Will you please do this with me?
Yes, you are.
And I'm going to ask some of our community partners to come up. I want to start by saying, as we all know, there's been some real efforts made at not only national level, state level, county, and our local communities to educate people and raise awareness of the opioid epidemic that affects us all. So we all know that October 6th is our Knockout Opiate Abuse Day. This was initiated last year. This is the second year. But Pequannock has done a tremendous job in educating the community. I want all the community partners. I understand there's representatives here from Community Partners for Hope, which was started last year. Doug Cook, bring everybody up. We also have representatives from Municipal Alliance, and I understand a lot of you are in both.
Yes.
Or in all. There's a representative from Municipal Alliance, who's also on Community Partners for Hope. There's representatives from, what else? Pequannock Coalition, the Suburban Women's Club, any other organizations that's involved in our opiate abuse awareness, please come up. The reason I want you all to come up is I want you all to understand that as a township, we really value our community and what everyone's been doing. It's just been a great initiative. I just wanted to talk a little bit about the initiative and then ask some of you to speak. So we all know that October 6th is, we don't just do it on October 6th, but October 6th is our statewide Knockout Opiate Abuse Day. And we're going to read into the record a proclamation and give the proclamation to each group that helps with this important initiative. This single day initiative will mobilize, as it has in the past, mobilize families, the prevention and treatment communities, community leaders, and concerned citizens to raise awareness of the potential for dependency on prescribed pain medicine and its link to heroin abuse rates in our state. The mobilization will have a dual focus. It educates physicians and raises awareness among New Jersey citizens and families. And like I said, this program was started, I believe, last year. The one group that Doug heads up, that was formed last year as well with all the community partners. So we wanted to invite you all here to thank them for all their hard work surrounding the initiative, present each with the proclamation, and tell us a little bit about the programs that you're doing. to date. So I'm looking at Phyllis. Let's start with you, Phyllis. Tell us your name, who you represent, and what groups you're involved in.
So my name is Phyllis Manicucci. I am the project coordinator for the Pequannock Township Coalition, which is Drug-Free Communities Coalition, and our mission and vision is to reduce substance use in 12 to 17-year-olds. We use a variety of environmental strategies. Knockout Opiate Abuse Day started out a year ago at a meeting of the Community Coalition for Safe and Healthy Morris, and someone said, wouldn't it be great if we could just knock on doors and talk to people about the connection between prescription opiates and heroin? 3 months later, New Jersey Prevention Network and the Partnership for Drug-Free New Jersey took up the initiative and marketed it statewide. The governor bought into it. So on October 6th throughout the state, volunteers in their neighborhoods will be putting these door hangers on doors up and down their streets. And I happen to bring several hundred with me today if anyone is interested.
All right.
And it really just encourages people to have a conversation with their physician. Is this opiate prescription really necessary? Is there another alternative? And particularly with regard to children, are there alternatives? Because we know that many, many people start this unfortunate journey with heroin, starting with a doctor's prescription. There are also prescription guidelines that you can talk to your physicians about, and I have all the materials back there. So thank you very much for the second year in a row. Last year, Mayor Cole agreed to make October 6th Knockout Opiate Abuse Day in Pequannock Township, and thank you, Melissa, for continuing it this year.
No problem. Okay.
Hi,
And I'm going to have Mary Ann speak
Mary Ann.
on this whole audience. Come up.
I'm Mary Ann Daly Couch. I'm from Municipal Alliance and the Coalition. I've been part of MAC for the last 8-10 years. Our goals are much the same as the Coalition, that we want to involve the community, educate the community, bring the community together, and understand that this problem doesn't affect one person, it affects the families, and we do as much as we can. There are several things that have gone on in the community. Senior citizens presentation on drug use and safely disposing of medications. Steered straight presentation for all 3 middle schools. Bracelets for all elementary and middle school students for Red Ribbon Week. Parents presentation on drug and alcohol abuse and use amongst the youth and what they're exposed to. Partnering with Community Partners for Hope, Chris Herron, we had a huge turnout for that program. And an evening with, there's a scheduled evening with Sheriff Jim Gannon, retired DEA agent. He spoke at the Republican Club meeting last week. You'd all be enamored by how much he's actually gotten done in the short time he's in office. We also do a crash reenactment for the high school seniors, and we are active partners with the Pequannock Township Coalition and the efforts for a drug-free community. So, you know,
Doing a lot.
we're constantly moving.
Good. Well, thank you for your efforts. And who's going to speak on behalf of community?
You were the last one here. The Community Partners of Hope, which is putting on community awareness program, is an outgrowth of the Grains of Hope food packaging event. And I don't know if the township and the council is fully aware of it, but this year the township of Pequannock and Lincoln Park, who participates in that, will be packaging their 1 millionth meal on March 18th. Excellent. Those meals are sent to Haiti, but the other half are sent to the food bank of New Jersey. We did a wrap-up meeting 2 years ago, and we decided we all work so well together, we should look at addressing problems in the community. And we thought about the opiate problem. And while we're all very good intentional, that we also realized we knew nothing about how to approach this. So Newbridge Services, Children's Medical Center, the Coalition, the Alliance, all joined with us, and we relied on their expertise as to what speakers to bring in. The first time I ever met with Mary Bonner, she looked at me with wide eyes and said, can you imagine if we could afford to bring Chris Herron and put him in front of the high school? Well, $12,500 later, we put him in front of the high school, but also that night, we put him in front of over 700 members of this community. Then we looked at it, and Phyllis joined us, and she said, I want to put on a hidden in plain sight program. That's where you go into a mock bedroom of an adolescent and you learn about drug usage, what to look for, things like that. They put on a phenomenal program. We had over 170 people come. So in 1 year, we had over 1,700 people come to and attend our various programs. Thanks to everybody who's a member of that. That is 15 partners. We have upcoming, we have
Officer Galloway coming January 18th. Alicia, the principal of the high school, said to me, I would like to bring him in. She went to a seminar where he was there. He was phenomenal. We're putting in front of the whole high school staff. Chris Herron's coming back next month to go in front of the 7th and 8th graders of the middle school, but also the middle school has invited Holy Spirit to bring their 8th graders so that they hear him. And so we're doing great. And thanks to these people, not just any one of us. So
What a great grassroots effort. I mean, everybody's doing a phenomenal job.
January 9th, I think it is. I don't know, I have to look at my calendar, Dave. I have so many dates.
It's the second Tuesday of January.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. By the way, we're starting a new subject also. We're still going to put on opioid front, but November 14th, we are putting on, it's just advertised on our website, human trafficking. We're bringing in a woman who was forced into human trafficking for many years, and she is a speaker. And then in addition to that, a representative from Truckers Against Trafficking. They actually have an organization that certifies truckers as to what to look for. They will have a speaker there. It'll be across the street in Friendship Hall.
Great.
Yep.
Well, anything the town can do to help promote the stuff and get it out there, let us know.
Great.
You guys are doing a great job.
Thank you.
So before I read the proclamation into the record, anyone else want to say anything? No? Okay. And then we can take some pictures and whatnot. But it's really an important initiative. So this is a proclamation to read into the record, whereas New Jersey is in the midst of a life-threatening opiate abuse epidemic, and whereas the Partnership for a Drug-Free New Jersey has designated October 6, 2017 as Knockout Opiate Abuse Day, an initiative with a dual purpose to educate families of the addiction qualities of opiate pain medicines and their link to heroin abuse rates in New Jersey, and outreach to physicians with safer prescribing messages found in the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention guidelines for prescribing opiates, which include considering other therapies, setting realistic treatment goals with patients, and discussing with the patients the pros and cons of opiates. And whereas the township supports initiatives taken by our community organizations designed to raise awareness about the opiate abuse in New Jersey and take steps to prevent addiction. Now therefore, on behalf of the Township of Pequannock and its residents, Mayor Melissa Florence Lynch and members of the Township Council, do hereby proclaim that October 6, 2017 be recognized as Knockout Opiate Abuse Day in Pequannock Township. So I want to thank you for all your efforts and keep it going.
Everybody can get together like the old monkey show, which are okay.
Get everybody?
Everybody's in. One. Okay, that should do it.
Mike Steve's getting one.
One more.
One more, right? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Oops, I didn't give them their proclamations. I walked right away with them. Did they all leave? No, they were down later. Carol, I walked away with the proclamations. You did?
Chase them down.
Did you chase them down? I was supposed to present them. Some of them might still be here. Okay. Thank you very much for that. Next presentation is the municipal court overview. I believe Shelley, we have Shelley.
Good evening.
Good evening, how are you?
Good. My name is John Paparazzo. I'm the municipal court judge here in Pequannock Township. Shelley Gallagher's here. She's our certified court administrator. And Marjorie Jonas on the second row is our deputy court administrator. We're going to talk about the overview of the court, as well as Dave asked to talk about criminal justice reform, which if you open up a newspaper, it's there every day. So Shelley's going to talk about the court first, the overview, and then I'll talk about criminal justice reform.
Thank you.
Hi, I just want to say thank you for having us. Pequannock Municipal Court. I'm Shelley. My background a little bit, I've been in the court system for 16 years. I've been here in Pequannock for 10. Marjorie's been here for 2 years. The judge has been here since 1991 as the judge, and I believe 1981 as the prosecutor. And I gave a PowerPoint out. Does everybody have one?
Yep.
They're in green. They're part of the court, Nick and Bob Mayer, but they're not part of the court, but we include them because they are a different branch of government. People think we're all one and the same. The municipal court is the judicial branch of government. The police department, the prosecutor, they're the executive branch of government. On page 2, the municipal court does have the most cases in the state of New Jersey, more cases than Superior Court. We have criminal cases, disorderly, petty disorderly, indictable, first, second, third, and fourth degree crimes go down to Superior Court. We have traffic cases. We carry Pequannock police cases, state police, parks police, sheriff police, fish and game, and I think that's it. We also have citizen complaints, state and county weights and measures complaints. We have code violations, health, building, zoning, animal control. We have court every Monday, usually 3 to 4 Mondays. And then we have mediation once a month. It's held here in the courtroom on Thursday nights at 7 o'clock. We also hold it for Riverdale and Butler because we have the video here and we have the police in our building, so that works out for all the towns. We do a lot of transfer cases too. I work in 4 other towns, so it works out to be very convenient. I take a lot of Pequannock cases with me. They bring a lot of their cases here. So we all work together as a group, which really helps because a lot of people, we have Monday day court, so a lot of people can't get off work. So I'll take their cases to Butler with me on Wednesday nights, and it's the judge as well with me there. So it really works out and helps out people that have troubles with, family care and stuff like that, or they can't get off their jobs. The next slide is the criminal complaints. I just did a short graph on 2011 through 2017. 2017 is a projection because it's September. I don't have the final number, so it's based on last year's year-to-date. Our criminal is down a little bit. Hopefully, we hope that it's a safer town because that's criminal, but it's pretty standard above the 50% line. Traffic on the following slide. Our traffic numbers are fairly high. We have average about 5,000 cases a year, and that does include state police cases. So we're pretty high. We're a small town, but we do have really high numbers. You can see that on the last slide is a graph statewide. There's 545 municipal courts currently. That number does change a little bit because a lot of towns do merge, then they break up, then they merge. So that number does fluctuate a little bit, but if you can see there's a median line, we're pretty high. We're above the 50% in the state. So if you look, for example, on DWI, number 1 meaning the highest, Camden actually holds the highest for DWIs. It's 60,000 DWIs, 60,000, I believe. 60,000 DWIs in the last 5 years. It's extreme. Where, I don't have my glasses. I do. We have 203. So, does anybody have any questions about what we do? Any questions at all?
I don't know, anybody have any specific questions?
Seems like a well-oiled machine.
Try. It's a great job. It's very rewarding because listening to the opiate abuse and stuff like that, it is, because you do see people that come into the system, and there are people that actually make it, and it is nice to see that. And it's a great township to work for.
I have a quick question. Are we technically over that 50% line because of Route 23 having a main corridor come through here?
State police does affect our numbers greatly, so the traffic is definitely influenced by the state police 287 tickets. But we've always been a fairly busy town. Route 23 is very aggressive. We have a lot of people that's going towards Patterson. We're kind of like the in-between of Patterson, the city. So we do have a lot of people heading up to Hamburg, Sussex, so we are that middle. We're very busy for traffic.
Okay.
The only other comment I was going to make was on the criminal case load. We recently went to doing video with the county so that you don't have to transport. How's that working? It's probably saving.
Video conference is good. They have changed over to a new system. We are asking to get a television because they changed over to Cisco, which would also allow us to do, we have a lot of prisoners in like state prisons that we cannot do video with now. So if we could get that Cisco system up and running and it would reduce the backlog a lot. But they want video because it's safer to transport, well, the cost as well, but to transport a defendant, it becomes very dangerous, and especially if they're in state prison, they're in there for a good reason. So the video conference is great. We don't have to transfer them, the police don't have to sit on them.
Yeah, it seems like it's...
Yeah, it works out well.
Good.
So, one more question, sorry.
That's okay.
The DWIs, do we know how much the corridors skew us, and can we back that out of our town numbers? If we do have 287 and 23 going through the
I
town?
don't understand the question. What was the question?
back out the... Well, in other words, the town isn't as bad as it seems on paper.
Oh, because you're catching people from
everybody
other
from 23.
areas.
A lot of defendants are from Pequannock and Pompey Point.
Right.
Believe me, don't think they're not. We have a lot of...
And
Hoping.
everything is public record. We currently have 23 DWIs pending, and I would say about 15 of them are local. Yeah.
Oh, there goes that one. I was hoping.
I have a question, Shelley. Are you backlogged, or what's your oldest case you're sitting
Our
on?
backlog right now is criminal cases, the lab. It's not due to the township, our police department, or anything like that. It is the state lab. They are backed up on all of their criminal cases. The back is about 4 months for labs to come in, where the county, their backlog number is 60 days. It's not reasonable. You know, when the state is holding you up 4 months, it makes our numbers look bad. So if you look at our backlog numbers, you'll see it, and you'll be like, oh my goodness, that's bad. But it's not due to the court, it's not due to the police department, it is the state police labs.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Just to go along with what Shelley just said, there's over 6 million cases filed in the municipal court system. And what we do in the municipal court, first of all, I have to tell you, my staff is probably the best staff in the state of New Jersey. They are passionate. They are here. I must speak to Shelley 5 times over the weekend. And plus, what she does with the police department, because when they have questions, over the weekend, she's on every question. But the court does more than just sit in court. We are open 24/7 for the police department. If 3 o'clock in the morning, they call me for a temporary restraining order, I get out of bed, I take testimony over the telephone of the victim, I order a TRO if it's required, and everything is electronic now, so it's electronic. Plus, we have warrants over the weekend. So if if we issue a warrant, that is done. We may have someone who is in another town, let's say Wildwood, that is one of our warrants. Then we have to make a decision with the police, do we pick them up? So we do that over the weekend. Just some of your questions. In regard to what happens here in Pequannock, it's out-of-town people as well as people in Pequannock. And using the opiate, it's our biggest problem. Drugs are terrible. With the lab, I just met with the Simon Judge of Morris County yesterday at breakfast, and the labs are going to be more like 6 to 9 months. The state police are not hiring people at the lab. It's a terrible problem, and the judiciary can do nothing about it. We're kind of throwing our hands up. So it's a major problem. That's our backlog, and that's the reason. Let me talk about criminal justice reform. If you've been watching the TV, if you've been reading the paper, criminal justice reform is on the front page. November of 2014, the voters voted for a constitutional change. And in January of 2017, we had a shift from setting monetary bail as a condition of release to a risk-based system. We were lucky in Morris County because we were a pilot program. Morris, Sussex, Camden County, and Passaic County were the 3 pilots. So we were lucky. So we've been having training. We've been going to more courses than I care to tell you. But we were the pilot program, so we were the guinea pigs. So we went through all the system. We worked it out. The objective, let me just explain the system now as to what it was. Before you get a call, either myself or Shelley would make a determination of probable cause. We make a determination of a warrant or a summons issued, and then we would make a determination of bail. So it was a monetary system. So what happened, they found with all the statistics, is that people with $2,500 bail or less were sitting in the jail. So you had a system where if you had an alleged drug dealer who I said $500,000 bail, they make bail, they're out, they're on the street. The poor user who can't make $2,500 bail is staying in jail, their cases are not being heard. And they realized that affected not only the people that didn't have money, but also a racial issue as far as the poor are in jail, they cannot get out of jail. So the system we have now is a wonderful, wonderful system, because what it does is more objective. So this is how we do it now. We get a call from the police. They call me or Shelley. We then go into our computers. So now, when my friends see me, I always carry a laptop with me. I cannot go anywhere on my boat, a restaurant. The laptop has to come with us because everything is electronic. So they call me saying, Judge, we got Mr. Jones in the system. I go into my computer, we look it up, and there's Mr. Jones. We go in, and in the system is a probable cause statement. So we know, the prosecutor knows, and we know exactly what the facts are. The prosecutor has already reviewed. Every prosecutor in every county throughout the state reviews every complaint before it gets to a judge. So that's all reviewed. So if the prosecutor believes it's going to go on a summons, we are not called. The police officer puts it in, it's on a summons, and it's done. But where there's probable cause determination, that's done by a judicial officer, either myself or a court administrator. And we go into the computer, we read it. If we believe there's probable cause, we hit probable cause. Then we go to what's called a PSA, a public safety assessment. In this assessment, when the police arrest someone, their fingerprint, it's called live scan. And that brings up a ton of information that we never had before. So now we have a ton of information that we can look at a PSA, and it gives us a number. It's based upon the criminal history of the defendant, it's based upon their age, failure to appears, it's based upon if it's a violent crime. This gives us all this information. It comes up with a score. That score tells the judge or the judicial officer whether we should issue a summons or a warrant. Now, the one thing, and I sit as a CJP judge, so I'm one of 5 judges in Morris County, that when the case comes up to the county, they come before me. So now we have someone on the jail screen from the jail, we have a prosecutor and public defender there, and if it's going on a warrant, you go right to jail. I don't care if you're a state senator's daughter, I don't care if you are a state senator, you're going to jail if it goes on a warrant. There is no more bail. So if I or Shelley or a judge or a court administrator makes a decision that the matter's going on a warrant, you go right to jail. So the police department will take that person, they go to jail. The statute says 48 hours, the Chief Justice says he wants 24 hours. In 24 hours, you'll have a hearing before a judge. We have a judge hearing cases 6 days a week and every holiday. The Monday through Friday are done in the courthouse where I sit. On Saturday, it's a judge at his office, or it could be in your car because everything is now with the computers, with a robe on, with a hearing with a public defender and prosecutor. Now, that person who is in the jail will be released. Every defendant will be released unless the prosecutor files a motion for detention. If the prosecutor files a motion for detention, then in 3 days, that defendant will have a hearing before a Superior Court judge as to whether that person will be released or not. So if you're on a warrant, you go to jail, and if the prosecutor files a motion for detention, in 3 days, you'll have a hearing before a Superior Court judge as to whether you'll be released or not. Now, everyone else is released, so they come before me. It's not on a warrant. The prosecutor makes their pitch as far as the level. And what we have when we come to my level is that we have a scoring system. And it's there to tell us, after the public safety assessment, what release we should have. There's different levels. So someone who has nothing can be released on a ROR. It could be released on 1, 2, 3, 4 to 6, where you would be home detention with a bracelet on your ankle, which is really, our position is if you're going to do that, you might as well keep them in the jail. And the purpose of the release is to make sure, and it's the same thing under bail, whether they're going to appear in court, number 2, whether you're going to obstruct the criminal justice process, and to protection of the safety and the community. That's the basis of our new system. Everything is electronic, so everything is done through a computer. Now, certain charges are automatically on a warrant, so I don't care if the person, I just did this in Riverdale, unfortunately there was a death, the person was a 1-1, I would release that person on a summons, but since there was a death, that person was on a warrant, and they just had their hearing yesterday in court. So that's an overview of the system. It's one of the best systems. As a voter and as a citizen of New Jersey, I am shocked that the state of New Jersey put this together, which is a judge with why we don't have these labs and why we have a backlog. They have put a system together that I am shocked it works so well. Are there problems with it? Of course, every system has a problem. And they are looking at, every time we go to court, every month, they have every statistic sent to us. When I'm in Superior Court in Morristown, anyone can watch those hearings remotely. You can watch what we're doing, and I got to tell you, the Chief Justice and Judge Grant are watching these hearings. They're watching everything we're doing, so it's monitored to a great length, and we have meetings all the time, and it's a great system. It's a system based upon objective information, not upon some judge thinking, let's just set $100,000 bail, and the person sits in court. Another thing, besides criminal justice reform, it also requires, once the prosecutor indicts, they have 90 days to indict. They don't indict, the person's released. They have 180 days to try the case. So now, especially in your bigger, that's the police are calling me, except in a bigger city, you can be sitting in jail for 3 to 5 years before your trial. That will never happen again under this system. Now in this system, indict in 90, trial in 180 days. Now, a major murder trial, they can ask for more time because of the nature of a trial like that, but it's 90 and 180 days. So it's criminal justice reform and speedy trial reform. So it has changed our system probably since the 1940s when Justice Vanderbilt changed the court system. This is the biggest change ever. And we're happy that we were a pilot program, that I'm happy that I'm a CJP judge, and it's a great system.
How long ago did we change?
January 1st, 2017. That's when it started.
Okay.
January 1st, yeah. So it's been in effect, and we have 5 judges to do this, and again, we meet all the time to go over, make sure everything's done properly.
Good.
Any questions about the court?
Very interesting.
Yeah,
we are very passionate about our court, and the last thing I'm going to say is when I issue a warrant, or I issue a TRO, I'm very cognizant at 3 o'clock in the morning, I'm sending 3 to 4 police officers to a house, and they have no idea what's going on there.
Yeah.
So I understand when I don't enter these orders willy-nilly. I truly believe that I take testimony over the phone, I take notes, I usually do it and wake my wife up, of course, and go downstairs, but we do that, and we take the testimony because I have had cases where police officers have been injured. So we're sending police officers in harm's way. They're going into a situation where there may be guns, there may be violence, there may be drugs, and there may be kids. So it's a very serious situation. And I will tell you that we have a lot of restraining orders in Pequannock Township. So I know this is a great, believe me, I've been here a long time. This is a great, great, great town. But we all have problems, and those opiates are everywhere. They're everywhere. And when you ever come to court and watch these people on the video, the drugs are just destroying our society. It's a shame, but that's what's happening. It's happening.
Well,
Any questions?
No?
Thank you for letting us speak to you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for the
Okay.
update.
Have a good night.
Thank you.
I was tasked with implementing this to the police department in the past year or so. And we've had a couple of little hiccups here and there, but as a whole, we've been working very smoothly. And that has a lot to do with Judge Paparazzo and his staff. And one of the reasons why the state police like to find drunks in 287, specifically in the Pequannock area, is because of the professionalism of the Pequannockism. So that may skew our statistics.
Right.
Definitely skews our statistics.
Good job is making our
Thank you.
statistics go up. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
All right, very interesting. All right, moving on. Next is reports from volunteers. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to address the council and give an update on their committee or group? Yes. Behind the pillar.
Good evening, Jordan Galliano, 10 Peck Avenue. I'm representing the Pequannock Skate Park Advisory Committee. We recently had our meeting last Thursday, right here in the courtroom, and we had many members of the community come out and express their concerns regarding the project to this point so far. We also had a conference call with Pillar Design Studios, who is working on the design for us, and as well as Wayne Ingram Engineering and Land Planning Associates. And regarding the issue with the site at Washington Park, what we are hoping to propose to council, and it is on the agenda for tonight, is to go ahead with the geotechnical surveys of the Washington Park area. This is crucial because a lot of the members of the community that did come out, they did express a lot of concerns regarding soil compactness compactability, how strong the ground is there, whether it contains any contaminants, if it's going to worsen flooding, or, sorry, Dave, I don't mean to say worsen flooding again, but it's just a formality that we have to work through in order to make sure that this land is workable for this project, and that we hope that the council is willing to take the proper steps to go ahead with the geotechnical survey so then we can see where we can go with the rest of this project.
Thank you. I was going to say, at the design meeting, I had sat there, the very first one, I think he brought that up.
Yeah.
That he knew he was going to have to do this step.
Yes.
So-
I mean, this is just a formality with anything really when it comes to developing any piece of land in any town. Just understand the compactability of the soil in the area. So we just want to make sure that we're taking all the right precautions, all the necessary steps to make sure that this is well done right first time, and don't have to come back to it, hopefully, and make sure it's done right the first time. So, thank you.
Anybody have anything? No? Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks. All right, anyone else?
This is still volunteer.
Are you here for a volunteer group, or are you in public comment? You're here for one of the...
Public comment.
Okay, we got to get to that.
Wrong time?
Well, that's all right, we're going into that now. So, you don't have to go too far. You don't have to go too far. I just wanted to make a comment. If there's nothing else from our volunteer groups, we are now going into the public comment period, and I'll just start by saying it'll be limited to 30 minutes. There will be an additional period of public comment at the end of the meeting. Just raise your hand, wait to be recognized, and then come up to the podium and give your name and address to the record, and you can speak. Come on up. Sorry about that. I just wanted to formally say where we were.
I understand. Thank you. Good evening. My name is Jason Richardson, and I live at 100 Mandeville Ave in Pequannock. I've been a township resident here for 34 years. On August 2nd, I wrote an email to the township manager and the mayor in regards to Patrolman Matthew Levine of the Pequannock Police Department. And the reason I wrote that email was that I learned of the township seeking his termination. And I'm here tonight to voice my opinion to the town council, since I didn't receive a response back. I, along with many others, support Matt. He's an exceptional police officer, community member, and family man. And some of you may be aware of this situation, and I want you to know that one of Pequannock's hardest working police officers definitely deserves his job back. And I was wondering if you can comment on that or offer any status update.
Well, I'll first start just by saying that we, as council members, cannot get involved in those types of, we're not involved in the hiring or firing. It's not our area. I did get some letters and emails, and I discussed it with the town manager, and I don't know if Dave has anything to say, or
even
Bob.
if he did, when we can't talk about personnel
Right,
matters
exactly.
at a council meeting. The law requires that if we did that, we had to notify the person in advance of the meeting that they were going to be discussed. So this isn't really the right forum to ever comment on a personnel issue. I understand the frustration, because then where do you go, right?
Yeah, right.
If this isn't
that's
it,
why I'm
where?
here, exactly. I figured.
And it is a very difficult thing for administration to ever comment on publicly because of the privacy of the employee in those issues. So I think you may just have to be satisfied with voicing your opinion, knowing that it's heard.
That's why.
Understanding that we really can't get into discussing the personnel issue back with you, which is understandable. Under other circumstances, you could probably understand why. So that's why we're sort of left hearing you, but not really commenting back to you. Okay.
Understood. Well, thank you very much for your time.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, anyone else wish to come up for public comment? Yes.
My name is Carol Gershkin, and I live in Wayne, and I'm here on behalf of Officer Levine also. I know him since he was born, and I find him to be a very honorable, hardworking, wonderful person, and I can't imagine what he could have done for them trying to take his job. So I'm here just to support him and say that he is a wonderful person. Thank you.
Anyone else? Donna, yes, please come up. I didn't see you behind that pillar.
Donna Satani, 117 Greenwood Ave. I'm here about the skate park, and I'll preface it by saying I am in favor of a skate park, and I've said this a million other places except here, that I am very concerned about where it's being placed. I live right behind there. It's a major floodplain. It's a new flood maps go through, then my area is a floodway, no longer just a floodplain. So it's a pretty severe flood area. It's not just that the skate park is going to be there. It's that the castle has already taken away a huge chunk of land. Then the skate parks, so the castle's here on my street, the skate park is here on my street. Now there's talk about maybe a hotel going up on Alexander, so that's over here. And I just feel that all this building is just really terribly affecting our area. And I'm not feeling any sense of concern about the flooding, and I know you are concerned, but I'm not really feeling any type of communication as to, did you consider this, didn't you consider it? So that's part of what I'm here for. The other thing that I was thinking of, actually after going to the skate park meeting the other night, I know we have a declining enrollment in town. We're talking about consolidating schools. And yet, we're also talking about spending all this money on a skate park when we're having fewer and fewer children coming to town. So I guess what I'm really asking is that the council, revisit this. The flooding issue, the boxing in that whole neighborhood of Greenwood Ave, and part of Madison Street there, and the effect that all these new buildings, and DEP regulations can be fulfilled for this site or that site or that site, but when you combine all of them, I think you're really creating a disaster area. So we'd just like you to really think hard about this. Okay, that's all.
I appreciate that. Thank you. Yes, Steve.
Good evening, everyone. Steve Mangieri, 17 Foothills Drive. Again, I was at the skate park meeting the other night with Donna and the others in town. I'm here to speak to you tonight about Resolution 2017-174, looking for the authorization of the monies to do the geotechnical test site on the property in Washington Park there. With the monies already committed to the design, and the money's being spent on this geotechnical test, we're looking at about $30,000 to be spent on seeing if we can put a skate park at Washington Park. That still, we would have to go in front of the State Department of Environmental Protection and maybe DOT to see if this site would actually be approved to put that type of facility there. Right now, and it was discussed at some previous meetings, FEMA's looking to add 241 houses in Pequannock Township into the flood maps. It's an awful lot of houses in this town. It's an awful lot of houses in this town that can be affected by floods. And if these houses do get put on the flood maps, that's going to affect the property values of the houses in Pequannock Township, not just the people in the flood zone, in the town, the whole town in general. So I'm kind of questioning spending, knowing that we're going to have a great expenditure of monies to come up against FEMA and defend our town against having all these additional houses put on this flood map. And if it doesn't go through to have, property values drop in town, I'm kind of questioning whether the town needs to spend this kind of money on developing a brand new additional park in town when there's going to be a whole lot of resources that need to be spent basically combating FEMA to keep houses in the township that really, I don't feel, have any need to be on a flood map in these revised flood zones. So I think the council's responsibility to the homeowners in town and people like Donna who are in a floodplain that's now going to end up being in a floodway, there's some major concerns here, and I think there's going to be a lot of resources that are going to need to be spent defending our townspeople, our property owners, our taxpayers against that. And I'm just really kind of questioning the need to spend this kind of money right now on developing another park inside the town. So, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Before you run away, Steve, hold on.
Go ahead.
Wait, you got to give me a quick, Rich.
Do we have any idea how much it's going to cost us for all these experts yet?
For the FEMA bill? Not yet, no.
Ballpark?
I would hate to even guess at this point, because now we have two separate issues that we need to appeal. A month ago, we were,
Right,
only dealing with one.
Right, so the skate park's being built in the floodway now?
No.
No, it's not the floodway? Okay.
The location of the floodway hasn't changed with respect to Washington Park.
Okay.
Do we have an idea when we'll know the cost of experts?
Right,
I was under the impression that we were going to find
They're
out.
getting estimates.
Dave,
it'll be within the next month or so.
Up to this date, how much have we actually spent on anything associated with the skate park?
25,000.
We've committed 25.
But we haven't actually
We haven't spent it.
It's in your packet tonight, the payment, the first payment.
Right, so this is the first part. It's $3,700 to just check the soil, to even see if we could build something there.
No, it's the second part.
We already committed the funds for pillar design, which is just under 25, plus another 3,700 this evening. So in terms of commitments, you're at about 29,000.
But if what we're doing this evening, if the soil can't support it or anything like that, then
He still gets his 25, though.
Well, if you listen to his presentation on Thursday, they're going to look at the soil, capacity to bear weight, and if it, on its own, if it does not, they will recommend a solution that council can consider.
So the design for it.
Correct.
Right.
Okay. Should we have done that first?
Not necessarily. We thought this would probably be a component, and if you look at, part of the reason there was a large cost difference between the different RFP proposals was, some of them included absolutely everything, and this respondent basically said, you shouldn't be paying for things you don't absolutely need. This is a probable, but until they got into design and actually had a survey, they weren't willing to say that. So I think they were upfront when they made the presentation initially saying this is likely, but whereas this was included in the cost of the other RFPs.
So I guess my question is then, is there going to be a chance that the site will not be suitable for a skateboard park?
Did that happen?
Without knowing what's there, I can't even guess, but the engineer did say that they do have a method of designing the park to work on, the example he gave was a beach sighting in North Carolina, I think it was.
And that was at an increased cost of what he was saying to
That's right.
design
So
it to
that,
that area. If it didn't support, if the soil sample said it will not support this kind of park here, they would redesign it, and it would be an additional cost to have the park built on that site to meet those.
So being able to provide final design costs is, this is relevant to being able to get a correct build cost from the design.
So these are all baby steps that we're going.
Yeah. Unfortunately, we're spending a little money to take each baby step, and a lot, go ahead.
Right. Again, looking at the bigger picture, we have a bigger issue than a skate park here, guys. Okay?
Which came up after we started this.
After we started this, so...
And we are...
That's what I'm addressing.
We are aware of that.
There's a lot of people that are affected by this, and it's going to take a lot of resources.
It's going to take resources.
From this town to defend against that, yeah.
Right, so, I need to know, or I want to know, through our township manager, what are we looking at, what it's going to cost us to fight this? Because that's what we're going to do. We're going to.
Well, I think that that's a separate discussion for this,
Well,
when we do our budget.
We're walking down a path here where we're going to spend money, and we got a bigger issue in front of us right now.
Yes, and I have a lot of questions around that too, and I don't think this is the forum, but I mean, there's one thing about if we fight it and we win and they flood, like, even what is our liability then? I mean, there's a lot of issues to discuss around those FEMA maps, and I think that's a whole nother discussion.
There's a lot of discussion about, under both these projects, whether it's the
I mean,
FEMA
because
maps
Compton
or the
Lakes, they lost their
skateboard park.
appeal.
I
They
mean,
spent all the money and lost their appeal. Now they're dealing with a river and we're dealing with, a ditch.
Because
So it's different.
they're dealing with different rivers than we're dealing with.
Exactly. So that's a whole discussion we have to have about how we march forward on that.
We need to have that discussion soon.
Yeah, because I think Steve's correct. Those 234 houses go in the flood, it's not just going to affect the values of those 234 homes. It's going to affect the entire town. Because Pequannock is going to be known as a flood town.
But the thing is those are based on certain numbers, and we're going to have to go up against their experts, and I am worried about our liability if they do flood. What if they flood and we fought for it not to flood, right? We said it wouldn't flood, so now where are we? Then what does the homeowner want when he floods?
Every homeowner has the ability to buy flood insurance, whether you're in the flood or not.
So there's things that we got to talk about,
Yeah, there's a lot of things.
But no, there are a lot of things, and one of the things that I've been thinking about ever since the flood maps, got expanded again was, we do continue to do things in the flood zone. We need to be aware of what we're doing.
I'm not so concerned about that. I'm more concerned about the dollars that we're going to expend when we need to expend them on.
I agree.
On something that is for the benefit of the entire town, not for a select group. That's all. I mean, what we approved tonight is $3,700, which is nothing in the scheme of things. It's the next step that we take after that that I become concerned, okay? Before we march down that path, we need to know what is it going to cost us to challenge FEMA.
Or we're going to have to take.
And if we don't know that answer, we're not going to be able to keep moving forward on spending
I want
money.
to start reserving money now.
Yeah, but I had no expectation to be able to provide that this evening.
Right.
No, we know that, Dave, but what we're saying is, look, we got to be cognizant of that fact. Look, I want a skate park, just like most people want a skate park, But I also want to do it in an intelligent way where we have a bigger problem on our hands right now. And this bigger problem just occurred recently.
It changes the dynamics.
It does
change the dynamics of everything.
And I would not be concerned about the liability if we fight it and win.
Right.
Right, I wouldn't be either, because...
Like I said, every homower has the
I would
ability
ask
to
that to the
block to buy
attorney.
flood insurance.
I would ask that to the attorney.
We'll discuss it when we get there.
Want to make a comment now?
This is not the right forum.
Thank you, Steve. Thank you, Steve. Anyone else like to make a comment? Yes, come on up.
Dave Stapp, 749 Newark Pumpton Turnpike in Pumpton Plains. We've been going back and forth quite a bit on the MOU for the Historical Society and the Martin Berry House, and I want to thank you that it's on the agenda that the resolution's on the agenda thank the town for your efforts. Chris, thank you too. Robert, thank you for putting that together, and I hopefully the township will approve it tonight, and we can move forward and get things going. We're really excited, especially with pathways coming up, being able to get the house opened up and ready for the pathways for it.
I have a question for you. Were they able, I heard that they had to go over to air out the house because it was sealed up. Did we get to do that? And how was it? I just wondered if there were issues. That's all.
It smells old?
No, somebody had just came up to me at the hoedown and said that they were trying to get in there to air it out. And
the house was smelly.
I know, Dave, you can answer that better than...
Oh, okay. Yeah, I was just curious if we ever did.
We took a look. I don't think the problem was as severe as it had been.
And that's why I asked. I wondered, if there was a severe problem.
We haven't been able to get over there yet.
Okay. I just want.
Maybe after tonight you can get over there?
Pardon?
Maybe after tonight you can get over there? Maybe.
Maybe.
Okay. Hey, is the new ambulance coming?
If we can have a key.
Yeah, they can't go because they don't have a key.
Dave, is the new ambulance
Just want to
coming
make sure
tomorrow?
somebody's checking it.
I'm sorry.
The new ambulance coming tomorrow?
It's supposed to be, yes.
Cool.
Okay, thanks.
From what I understand, the new ambulance is in South Jersey, waiting to be driven up to North Jersey.
Oh, boy.
There you go.
All right, anyone else in the audience want to come up and address the council? No one? Okay. All right, at this time, we're at the end of public comment. As was previously noted, we'll have an additional period later in the meeting. So next on the agenda is public hearings, which we have none this evening. And ordinances, there are no new ordinances to introduce this evening, so we're going to move right on to resolutions for approval. And I'm going to ask Carol to read each one by title.
Beginning with Resolution R 2017-173, authorizing tax office refunds, overpayments, or cancellations. 2017-174, authorizing a professional services agreement between the Township of Pequannock and Engineering and Land Planning Associates Incorporated for geotechnical engineering services. Resolution R 2017-175, approving a memorandum of understanding between the Township of Pequannock and the Pequannock Township Historical Society relating to the Martin Berry House. 2017-176, approving payment of the itemized claims as set forth on the September 22nd, 2017 bill list. And R 2017-177, which was a revision to the original agenda, confirming the designated membership in the Pequannock Township Fire Department. And that's for junior firefighter Julia Blout and firefighter Michael Presley, both in Engine Company 1.
All right, any comments or questions from council?
Yes, I just want to reiterate 2017-174. I'm going to vote yes at this point. But the next step, we need to know what it's going to cost us for this FEMA fight that we're going to have.
I do have a quick question on R 2017-174. How long does it take to get the information from it?
They estimated about 6 weeks. Summary.
Yeah, I think they said they were between 3 to 6 weeks.
So by the time they start and everything, it's
I thought it was 4 weeks.
Yeah, I think it's 4 weeks.
Yeah, I think they said we started, I think, once we get through 6 weeks to get paperwork and get started and get people back to last. But I can't recall the exact.
Right, they don't wait until the ground's frozen and say it's hard enough, right?
Okay, that's my question.
All right, anyone else have a comment or question?
I'm also going to comment on 2017 and 174. I'm going to vote yes for it only because we've already approved the 25,000, and if we don't vote yes for this 3,700, it's going to be like throwing the 25,000 right out the window because they can't proceed without this testing.
Is there anyone that feels that it needs to be pulled out as a separate vote, or are you okay with it?
I'm not against it, I'm just more worried about what's going on with flooding in the future.
Right.
And unfortunately, they're just in the middle of it, it's just timing at this point, so. I think.
Go ahead, Brian.
Go ahead.
I'm going to vote yes, I would like to see it move forward, but unfortunately, that'll give us information about skate park, and then we're going to have to have this conversation about.
So we don't need to pull it out, but go ahead, Dave, you had something else?
I also, really question whether we should have did this before we spent the $25,000 on the engineering, because if it does come back that it's not a suitable site.
Right, now you just wasted.
I think we're going to be spending another $25,000 to have engineering done to see if we can have it somewhere else.
Right.
But we talked about many locations.
I mean, well, I'm going to ask, anything else, Dave, before I move on?
No.
Kathy?
Yeah, I have something that I wanted to share with council because of all of the activity that's going on around the skate park. So there's been a lot of things. I want to thank Dave at our skate park meeting last week. He spent 2 hours explaining what he had already explained probably 5 times before to council at council meetings and during Parks and Rec meetings and all that. So I want to really thank Dave for spending the time and really going through all the flooding issues and explaining all of the costs and all of the design work that it takes to do this the correct way to see if it's something feasible that the township wants to do. So I was just reading some information that I think council should have based on sports and all of sports activities that are dropping with our youth. And a lot of it has to do with what they call esports, because all of our kids are on technology way more than they should be. So there's a whole study that, there's lots of studies out there you can read, but I just took the highlights from this one. And I think the one thing that's really important is that that all ties in with this opioid crisis, that there's a mental health crisis. It's not just a drug crisis. There's a mental health issue that is underlying behind this. And the one thing that it says here is part of this study, that is a national study, half of vigorous exercise engaged in by Americans occur in parks. People who live closer to parks report better mental health. A lot of all this stuff is tied together that we do. So it's just like we can't take one project just on itself. We have to think about everything that we do, and when we do our budgets, and I know we do a really good job at this. So I just wanted you to have this information. If you want to read the full study, I can direct you to where it is. It's all about Project Play. And on another note, I'm so glad that we're coming to fruition on the MOU on the Martin Berry House. It's going to be very exciting. I hope that everybody stops by and sees the house. I think the Pathways is October 6th and 7th. Is that the dates? We'll be there. We'll be in our period garb. I've agreed to wear a gown.
I'm going to come see that. I'm definitely going to come there.
Yeah. I said I would dress up when we got the house, so I think it's time that I comply. So thank you very much for all of that.
All right, that's it? That's it. All right, and I'm just going to make 2 comments as well. One is on the Resolution 2017-174 as well. I tend to agree with both Councilman Phelan and Cole. We did know coming out of the design meeting that this work was going to need to be done, but we should have probably also been cognizant about knowing that it probably would have been needed to be done even before, earlier, because when I looked at those bids and I saw that one bid that was so low that we hired, I couldn't justify. Now I kind of hear that he wasn't taking all that into consideration.
Well,
we knew it.
And everybody else did.
He did. He just approached the RFP differently. And even approving this, we're still at less than half of even the next closest RFP.
Right, that's right.
I think that was part of, the reason I was convinced that this firm, aside from their qualifications, I kind of liked the approach they took, that they didn't want to spend our money on things that we didn't necessarily need. Now, this particular part, we do.
Right. No, I understand. And like I said, if we don't do this part...
It was an approach to the RFP. That's the way they laid it out. We could have awarded to one of the higher numbers, but that was way outside the budget, so.
A la carte was much more practical.
I think it is, yeah.
And I am not questioning their expertise. I'm sure their approach is fine. And like I said, if we don't approve it tonight, then it was money just thrown out the window. So I will also agree to move forward on that. And the only other thing I wanted to just clarify on the contract between the township and the Historical Society. Now, this last go-around, it was just minor changes. We didn't do it right. There was some changes with maintenance.
All the changes
are in black, highlighted.
Yes, are highlighted, bolded, and underlined, so that you can see where.
Right. So we felt like
those changes were made.
I just was looking at the main differences, because I know we were caught up on 2 things. They were very minor, I believe.
The intent is the same, nothing, nothing changed substantially. Yeah, some of the wording changed to meet with their desires.
Yeah, no, I think I was fine with everything. I just wanted to make sure we covered all our bases, which I'm sure we did, because you went through this. All right, so with that being said, and I'm glad we finally got this together, and I think that this is going to be a great asset and benefit to the town and to the residents. So with that, is there a motion to adopt these resolutions?
I'll make a motion to adopt Resolution 2017-173 through 2017-177.
I'll second it.
Okay, can I have roll call, please?
Mr. Hurd?
Yes.
Mr. Cole?
Yes.
Mr. Phelan?
Yes.
Ms. Winterfield?
Yes.
Mayor Florence Lynch?
Yes. Okay, next on the agenda is items for discussion. And we have a few things to go over here. We have the project status report and priorities. I think the best thing to do here is kind of go through each of the projects and kind of see where we're at, and I guess I don't know if you guys want to do a ranking, or Kathy asked, I think, for this to be.
Well, I asked for it on there because I think that Dave needs some direction from us, because there's way more, many projects.
There's a lot of projects.
In 12 months.
Yeah, no, there are a lot of projects.
I mean, I've made my comments. I don't know if anybody else had any time to do their comments, but I think it'd be just easier for Dave to manage his time if we gave him some ideas of priorities.
Right, and also, can we do a ranking?
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask. I think we should do a ranking on
Right,
all of them.
here's the projects, you rank them from one to...
Yeah, just like we do with
Similar to the way we've done with...
Yeah, with the streets and,
Okay, I'll
that's
put
really
something
what I want to
together
do.
and email it around. The only thing I would ask is understand there are other things that are going to be going on. I mean, the whole budget process has to take place in the next 6 months, which isn't listed here.
Well, Dave, if you want to throw other
Clearly,
things
it's
on there.
priority, so...
Well, yeah, you can throw other things
Dave,
on
you
here
can
and
put
say,
other things on
like
there
on the
and say
side.
things that are must-be's, must-haves.
Because I'm a little confused. Some of these things are pretty much
Some are complete.
well on their way or complete, correct?
Right.
Yes, and there are certain things that I've kind of committed to make sure that, they get done within certain time periods. So,
Okay.
I'll resend this along with my comments from my perspective, and some of the other things that should be listed, just so you'd have a, kind of concept of
Timing.
Mm-hmm.
No, but that would be most appreciated, is what things you think are going to, be done with the least effort, what's going to take the most effort, and a time frame.
And if you can just let us know how far along, like if something's done, just put, pretty much 90% complete or hasn't been started, so we have an idea.
Like the tank.
Well, I mean, some of them, hopefully what I'm doing, the narrative kind of describes where we are, but just take the water tank as an example. It's not complete, but in terms of, the things that I need to be involved in, it's underway, and it should be finished, within the next 12 months. So there's not a lot of time commitment from my office that needs to go into this.
Well, maybe that's something that you can add, estimated time of completion, and then how much percent of what it's going to take from the manager's office.
Yeah, because some of this stuff might not be in your
So you're not
office.
physically building the tank?
I was up there today pouring concrete, so.
I see they have some signs posted
Yeah, I saw that.
with arrows for the trucks, I
They
guess, where to
did
go.
pour the floor today.
Wow.
And on the reverse side, some of these projects, like, the first one that's always listed is walkable communities, but I think you're just kind of in waiting mode on some of this stuff.
And some, yes.
Well, some of it's resources.
Curbs work cut, I think.
Or, resources, and what you're waiting on would be nice to know.
All right, very good.
All right.
Did anybody want to hit a specific project, or you're good?
No, I'm good. We just need to start talking about it, that's all.
So we're back. The other item is the PV Park fees.
Yes, that's the next one.
All right. Has anything really changed since the last time we talked?
Well, no, you've still got the same, original and draft. We did provide a copy from our solid waste ordinance, which is the language that I had suggested regarding senior discounts.
Yeah, going back to that, I know I had talked a little bit to Dave about that. I think we really need to get a handle on what we're going to do with the senior category was one, and the other one was the groups.
So just to bring it back, based on the senior qualifying for this, we can use that for reduced rates at PD Park.
Correct.
I'm all for that.
Because that is both age and income qualified by state statute, so it's
we're
a
not just
uniform
making it
standard that is applied across the state. We already use it for solid waste.
Don't make it so hard to
And tax, I mean.
I did talk to Dave about one thing, though, that I was concerned about. I was concerned about if we were using 60 as the age before, and now we're going to change it, say, to 65, I don't want somebody to be caught in having to pay that difference. So we talked about language.
That's
no, but we had...
That's a lot to manage, I mean.
No, but we had talked about language. You did have an idea.
Well, my idea was to include language that said that individuals who qualified for the senior rate as of 2017 would continue to qualify for it. But they'd have to, we have the records of who got senior discounts last year.
So if they were a member
that would phase out over 5 years.
If you were already a member.
Yeah.
If you were already a member.
If you were already,
Yes.
okay.
I'm all for that, too.
All right.
Make it as simple as possible.
So if everybody's
We're trying to
okay with
reinvent the
that,
wheel here.
and I understand, the senior population, people live longer and, they work later, and I don't have a problem with that. I just don't want to see the big jump, so, on somebody that was already a member individually. And some of the other things...
So, we're all, with those two changes, we'll put that on for introduction next time.
Did anybody have any other concerns?
Are we going to explore anything with the groups or no?
Oh, the groups, the thing we talked about was instead of doing the group and nonprofit group is doing a half-day, full-day split.
Which I think would make sense. That was something we were concerned about.
Is that in here?
No, it's not.
No, it will be. Those are the two changes we were talking about doing, is the seniors and the
camps.
And the camps.
Right.
So whether you were going to rent it out for a full day, it would be more than if you were just going to be there for a couple of hours. I don't know if we were okay with the dollar figures.
What were we talking about? Full day was $4? That's still 50% of the rack rate, per se.
What are you talking about, on the group rate?
On the full day, half day for profit, non-profit?
Well, I think then if you're going to do it by full day, half day, then you do it as, pretty much close to half. So 250, 125, or,
we have to collect enough money to keep the lake open and sustaining itself and going, but at the same time, you don't want to, make someone pay.
I thought we talked about increasing the rate for for-profit full day.
Right.
So you want to keep both qualifications in?
Wait a minute.
Well, I thought we were going to go half-day, full-day.
I thought we were, but were we going to keep the nonprofit and profit in there?
Well, I thought that's what was going to correct it, pretty much, was just moving it half-day to full-day. Would it, or no? You think?
Well, like I said, I mean, yes, it will. I mean, I hate to increase the full-day rate for a nonprofit.
Right.
Because, I mean, we don't, the only two that we know of, but I believe there's 2 additional camps that go there. Is that correct, Dave?
Yeah.
There's 4?
There were. This year, I don't know if we had 4.
Well, if you think just in case we should leave the 2 groups in there as well, we can.
Well, how complex is that going to make the accounting?
I don't think it's that complex. We just need
We
to...
still need people to count. Are they going to be able to know if they're there for a half day or full day? I mean, in the real world.
The lake knows who's there full days and who's at their half days.
Yeah, they know the groups that
Well, they're
come
with
in.
the
There's not that
counselors,
many.
right? Yeah, they're with the counselors, I guess.
It just goes back to the discussion of if you have somebody in like a Spot 23 versus somebody that's in from one of the nonprofits. You know, it's different.
If you're charging for the amount of usage, you still need to differentiate between.
Right.
And if you can, we can do a four-way grid. We make it, you know,
that's what I think you're gonna have to do.
$3 and $2 for the group for full day and half day, and half of that, so $150 and $1 for nonprofits for full day and half day.
Yeah, I'm okay with that.
Yeah, that sounds good. Say it again?
Can you remember what you said?
I can, actually.
It's like a four-way grid.
For the for-profit group rate would be $3 per child per day for the full day, $2 for
half day,
$2 for the nonprofit for full day, and then $150, which is half, for half day, and $1 for nonprofits for half day.
And how is that different than what it is now?
Does that help anybody?
I mean, is it in line with, you know, where we were? I just don't want to see it, you know, jacked up too much.
I mean, does that help the nonprofits?
That keeps...
I think it went from, what was it, Dave? Was it
50 cents?
50 cents?
Well, yeah, the nonprofits are going from, they currently pay 50 cents. And we're going to $1 and $1.50 depending on the usage. But there was, you know, is a fourfold difference between group and nonprofit, or for-profit and nonprofit.
Right.
Well, all that I brought out the last time, when it was $2.50, we're charging $12.50 a kid for a week.
Right.
When their camp rate is anywhere from $170 to $199 a week.
Right.
Well, and
it's a win-win. Not for us.
I don't.
Right.
I don't go down that argument, meaning I think of it more of as we have all the overhead and liability if the kids are there for the full day. So I think we need to cover that, and we incur a cost. So that's why I keep on going back to a full day for-profit should be around $4. That's still 50% of your rack or retail rate. So it's still a heavy discount, even if it was $3.50.
I think if your intent is to get to 4, you should do it over a couple of years.
Yeah, yeah, you can't do it all at once.
Massive
You're gonna lose
increase
them. Yeah.
from
Going
16
from where they are now?
Yes.
Okay.
They're at 2, I think, now, right?
Yes, 2, yes, 2.
So then go to 3.
Which is what?
Which is where we're going.
For a half.
Just
Yeah, so we're talking for-profit, $3 full day, or $2 for nonprofit, right? And then the other one was $1.50 and $1.
right.
I'm okay with that.
I'm good.
I'm good.
Yeah, let's see that on paper.
We got to get it out as soon as possible, because a lot of these places start to advertise.
Yeah,
And we
yeah.
don't
Was there
wanna-
anything else that we discussed that we want to change? Or we were good with
What about
that?
paddle boards? What are they?
I'm not even bringing them up. I tried. I'll let the people that asked, I'll tell them why. All right.
Right.
Moving on.
Okay.
Those were the 2 biggest, the
Yeah.
seniors and the groups, so I think we got that good.
Okay. Next on the agenda is reports and notices, and there were 2 resolutions on there. Did anybody have any questions or comments on that? No?
the expedited foreclosure process.
Right, which
I don't know if I agree with it, but.
Which, yeah, I had discussed that a little bit with the manager, but, I don't know.
Michelle.
If,
I could see that getting abused.
yeah. I mean, I don't think we have a major problem with that now, do we? Where we need to make...
Not a problem. There were several years there when it was taking banks forever to get to this process, but
That's because they cheated, Dave, and they got caught. And then they had to cross their Ts and dot their Is.
No, it's because they don't want it on that side of the balance sheet.
Now it seems like the banks are taking the properties over and foreclosing on them, but then they take forever to put them on the market.
That hurts the
That's my pet peeve. No, I'm just saying. Anyway. All right. So we're going to go right to the manager's report if there's no other comments.
All right, the only thing I really had was the tank they poured the floor today, which I...
All right.
Also, we did receive preliminary notice from FEMA that our 16 grant has been approved. We still have to get the contract in place, but so we've had 2 years of successful grant apps with FEMA, so good on that end. And the time frame is a little bit faster than the 15 grant, so hopefully we'll have more time to actually implement that and actually be able to back it right up against the current project that we're doing. The application for the 17 is due next week, and we are working through that. We have 17 homes at this point.
Where we have it, we'll be able to submit for 17?
Yeah.
So that'll be 3 grant cycles in a row.
Well, that we're submitting.
Right.
Yes.
Excellent.
Can I ask you a question about some of the RL and SRL properties? Some residents had just asked me. I know we're doing it area by area, but if we get to a point where there is someone that needs to go through that elevation process, but they're not in that segment, did you decide that possibly we would do some substituting, or we're not there?
Actually, we're not there. In looking at that, the way we've laid out those areas and the mix of properties, they currently match up nicely with the FEMA requirements for what they're trying to address. If FEMA changes their priorities, then we may have to relook at how we're structuring it.
Okay.
But, the neighborhood approach at this point is really the best, and actually we had one come up, which would have qualified, but it was an entirely different neighborhood, and that would kind of skew what we've...
All right, so you looked at that.
Yeah, what we've been telling FEMA we're trying to do, so we want to stay away from that. At some point, with the next couple of years, perhaps we will package a grant app, if we can find the right mix, that includes kind of the stragglers or the ones who did not commit in previous applications from neighborhoods that have already been submitted. So we can kind of go back and catch up. But that is dependent on finding, again, the right mix of SRLs, substantial damage, and RLs to make a good app.
Okay.
Dave, what is the percentage of the participation in those?
In signing up for the grant, or
Yes, in signing up for the
actually
grant, yeah.
participating in the elevation?
Well,
Good.
both, kind of. Is it a good response? Is it just moderate?
The
or?
participation in this round is actually less than what we've seen in the first two, which is a little disappointing, because there is no firm commitment on the homeowner at this point, and just having that grant, because it goes with the home,
right,
we believe makes the home more valuable to, attempt to resell if you need to.
Definitely.
But, people I think are concerned about their own financial outlay and the commitment they have to make
Before they get
during the course of this, before they get reimbursement. We're finding that to be a hurdle that people are concerned about. We won't know until next spring what the participation rate is with the approved grant. because we're having some of those same issues now that people have to kind of commit to obtain financing in some fashion, especially only SRLs are 100%. So RLs and, the non-RLs have to commit either 20% or 25% or 10 or 25 of the total cost, and they have to finance this somehow. So.
Right. And we've had no success. I remember we said we were going to kind of look into it, but I guess there's been no success in either getting, whether it be a local bank or a elevation company or anyone, right, to
It's
kind
not that we haven't had any success. We've talked to quite a few, and we've had some good feedback, but it all involves participation and commitment on part of the homeowner. No one's going to go out there and do this and say, you don't have to do anything.
Yeah. No, I understand that. So it's just.
Well, that's why many times, residents will ask, do something about the flooding, and here we're trying to do something, but yet the participation rate is not as great as we thought it would be.
The one thing go ahead.
Let me ask you a question, Dave. Once we designate an area and people say yes or no, or the people that say no, that money's gone after a certain amount of time, correct? If they say they opt out,
yeah, that
there's a very good
has a
possibility.
period of completion, and if, we have to be done by that period, after that point, the grant's done. We don't have the money anymore. Correct.
That's why I'm not sure if people really understand that.
Right.
Do they understand that
Well,
once
that was
the grant is done,
That was my question.
the free money
I think we're having trouble with
They
communication.
do understand, but for some homeowners, they just don't understand how they're going to be able to kind of put the financing together.
I know you said participation so far, getting on the list is low. I saw somewhere that, it's all about, it's hard getting the information out because people are so busy, and we were doing more like, wasn't there people like door knocking to try to get people
They were all
engaged?
contacted.
Well, I thought the flood committee was doing that.
Yeah, they were. I just want to make sure that they were all contacted.
By mail and in person.
Okay.
And Joe even held a
He did.
meeting to go over the process.
Okay.
I guess if you can't come up with the excess
If you can't
cash,
come up with the, well, we knew that.
I just, it's a great program. I just wish there was more participation.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much. We'll start down at the end tonight. Ryan, do you have anything to report?
So MAC, we did the opioid for October 6th. I have my senior meeting on October 3rd and open space on October 9. I have both of them coming up. That's all I have.
How are the seniors doing, okay? Anything new going on there?
We need to really dig deep and figure out what the seniors in the community needs. It's a very interesting dynamic, and that's what we're working at right now. So how can we, township, actually positively affect the seniors? What can we do for them?
Right.
I need more information. We need to know from our seniors.
Good, thank you. Rich?
Okay, Shade Tree met last night. We talked about trees, obviously.
Shady?
It's a shady tree, yes. We also talked about flooding, which I thought was quite interesting, the new maps. Fire Company number 2 has a fire prevention week. They have next Sunday, October 8th. That's not next Sunday. Sunday, October 8th, between 12 and 4 is, they have an open house for fire prevention where kids are invited to come, sit on the fire trucks and so forth, etc. And that's all I have.
And who's that for? Company 2?
Company 2.
Very great. And they also have a fish and chips dinner coming up, right?
Which we talked about. I believe it's October 19th. I don't have my calendar.
Kathy?
I don't have anything, except the hoedown was a great success. I mean, all the committees, everybody was there. And I have to say that it was great weather, and I don't think there were any complaints. I mean, I don't know if you received any, Dave, but all the committees were representative, everybody in town. I think everybody had a great day. Yeah, so, I mean, everybody who worked really hard to put that together, really thank them for us.
Thank you.
Yeah, I thought it worked out great. Dave?
I'm just wondering, Dave, have you had a chance to talk to Pete about Parks and Rec field usage changes, or?
I don't have answers for all of the questions you brought up. We did talk about assigning time frames so that the booking of fields wasn't freeform. So you had an early and a late, because that seemed to be part of the issue. So we're looking at that.
Non-profit and local, I don't know. I don't know how you're going to handle it. I'm just wondering,
Let's imagine.
It could open up a can of worms, but,
yes, you will.
All right, well, do you think we'll have something maybe next meeting, or?
Yes, and actually next meeting, Pete will be here, because you will be convening as the Board of Health at 6:30. I'll ask him to stay on to answer questions relevant to recreation, which is not really Board of Health issues, but go through, all the stuff that
We'll be talking about carry in, carry out.
we will, yeah.
You're going to give us a summary of that? Okay.
The property across the street from Wayne Leak and Mercury, I guess Wayne Zoning Board has approved the development of that, which borders right to the river, which could have an impact on us.
The luxury apartments,
Yeah,
right?
there's going to be retail and luxury apartments.
I did see that.
I'm surprised that we really didn't have any say in that. But my other property question is, are we considering selling the piece of property in the village that we bought for the easement? That we took down the house, we knocked down the house?
Yes, we will do that.
Okay. The new ambulance is coming tomorrow. First Aid Squad's very excited about that. Fair Housing meets tomorrow night. Unfortunately, I will not be able to attend that meeting. And again, I thought the hoedown was a tremendous event. Congratulations to Parks and Rec for doing a great job on that. I thought there was just as many people there as last year, and I thought we had a great turnout last year, great turnout this year, so. That's all I have.
Thank you, Dave. I wanted to just ask you real quick, how are the Mountain Ave easement discussions going? Any headway on that? I'm just wondering. There have been a lot of changes in that project. Because I know there's...
The easements will not be easy to get. I did just get from Joe a revised plan, which I need to actually go over with Bob to make sure that what we're trying to do there we can do without getting easements. There are unfortunately a very small handful of people who are opposed to the project. They're opposed to actually really any type of improvements to the mountain. One resident even questioned whether there's a safety issue there. So just because of a handful of residents and not being able to get those easements, it's going to extend the time frame and make this a much more costly project. So what Joe has worked on is an alternative which, if it seems to work within the right-of-way that we have, I'll bring that to you, and you guys can decide whether that's a feasible alternative or whether you want to push ahead with, the full boat, which, this road needs to last longer than some of the residents who are going to be living there.
What is the deadline to lose the grant money if we don't do something?
We won't lose this grant money. Not using it within, basically the current grant construction cycle, which is through next spring, will cause us to rate lower on future applications. So we might be denied
in the future
an application in the future if we don't get it done.
Well, that road is a safety issue as it is. For anybody biking, walking, running, it needs to be
but
improved.
the residents' concerns are different than that.
I understand that, but first is the safety of the people driving and walking up and down the street. I mean, I don't mean making it 40 feet wide, but it needs to be improved. And why is By 287, so wide? I always meant to ask you that question, Mountain Ave.
Up the hill?
As you go up the hill, it's
Get rid of the
huge.
the excess asphalt.
It was constructed by the state, and it was made full width based on our code. I mean, that is a full width residential street. 'Cause they had to design their bridge to accommodate. Yeah, and remember that in the not too distant past, there were proposals for development on what is now Cedar Crest property that would have required secondary access down Mountain Avenue. So, I mean, there was thought of that being a through street back when 287 was being designed.
Interesting. I always meant to ask that.
All right, thank you. Just a couple of things. Economic Development Committee is meeting tomorrow night at 7:30, and I just wanted to make two other comments. One on the skateboard park. I had talked to the town manager about putting the skateboard park on the agenda so we can get a full update. But until we get the pricing, there's no, until we get the study back from Pillar with the pricing, there was, I was told it's better to wait. So we welcome you guys coming to the meetings and giving your input, and then we'll, keep doing that. And then eventually it'll be on the agenda for a lot more input once we have the numbers in hand. And then I just also wanted to make a comment about the hoedown as well. It was a great day, wonderful weather, and the whole community came together, and I just applaud Parks and Rec for a job well done. So with that being said, we're going to move into public comment. And if anyone wishes to address the council, please wait to be recognized. Come up and speak into the microphone. Give us your name and address. Anyone? Lou.
My name is Lou Bear, 11 Copley Court. We've been talking a lot about Parks and Recs tonight, and it just came to mind about PV Park. And I'm just curious, is there any funding in the budget next year for PV Park Lake portion? With some additions, for example, the tables and umbrellas and things of that nature? Or because I know we put a lot of money into the swim lanes over there.
We put a lot of money into the swim lanes, and we did talk about some replacements of umbrellas and things, but I don't know. We haven't done the 2018 budget yet.
No, I know that, but is there any idea that you may be putting something into the budget for that?
Well, Recreation is aware that the umbrellas need to be replaced. There were some that were damaged very late in the season, and it was too late at that point to order replacement ones. So I'm sure that will be part of their budget request, and it will go through, the channels up to council to decide what it's going to be.
We'll make sure we remember that, and you come to the budget meetings with your...
I'll be happy to do that. The other question I had was, not a question, I think it's more of operation at the lake. I know you make so much money for each person coming in and so forth, but the people at the front gate are just young people. And when you get a group coming in and they surround this poor little person that's there, and she has to collect money, she has to get named, she has to shoot a gun at the badges and so forth, you lose an awful lot of money coming through that gate because people just walk right in. And the person that's up there is really not prepared for something like that. You need at least two people to do that. During the busy times. In the evening when everybody's going home, that's fine. A person can just have one person there. But there's always a young kid that's up there and gets swamped by the people coming through, and there's always people who just walk through.
So you've seen that? So
definitely.
that is the process? I was thinking maybe the process was that there's a leader.
Probably reworked a little, because it is open.
It is open, it's true.
You could have more turnstiles or something.
Well, I think just two people would probably be better and someone with a little experience would be helpful.
I'll bring that up at the next Parks and Rec meeting.
I was thinking, if it's a group coming in, can't there just be a leader that's in charge, and all you have to do is count the people, not take money from all these different...
those little kids.
You know,
But if
like-
they have badges, we're scanning them.
Well, the camping groups are different. I mean, they have a representative comes in, takes care of all of it, that's fine.
Right.
It's the other groups that
Okay.
come in,
But
it's
it's all
5,
very
10,
open.
20, 30 times, 30 people sometime coming through. And
Dave will bring it up, and we'll have the
Yeah.
manager look at that, too.
the day people, correct.
Okay.
And you can see the poor girl getting frustrated.
All right, thank you.
Thank
Oh,
you.
We appreciate it. Anyone else? Yes, gentleman in the back row.
Hi, I'm Bob Morley on 4 Jacksonville Road. I actually sent you a letter because I didn't think I'd be able to make it. Anyway. Two things I wanted to speak about. The first was the Mountain Avenue. I have no idea why you don't pursue eminent domain. You are a government entity. You can condemn it. I know it'll cost you about probably $8,000 a parcel, but 16 grand, even 20 grand for the safety of the children, I think is well worth it. That's, it's just an easement. It's a short form appraisal. Boom, knock on the door. He doesn't want to cooperate. File your papers. You take possession of the property, and then if he wants to fight out in court, he can fight out in court. But anyway, that's what I would do. The other reason I'm here is on the skate park. My concern is, after going to the meeting, it doesn't appear that there's an organized effort on behalf of the people who want to get this done as to how they actually want to do it. I don't want to see the town get involved in an open-ended buy into this. At a certain point, either it isn't or isn't going to work, and at a certain point, either if we're setting out the contract, or we're putting out the request for proposal, contractor is going to want to get paid whether the private partnership comes through with their money or not. You start breaking ground, you're going to be committed, you're going to finish it, and if you're projecting you're spending 50 grand, you end up spending $250,000. I must say I'm worried about that. So I also would like to see any survey information they did as to, is this something that people are actually going to use? I asked a bunch of kids after that meeting if they would use it, and I couldn't find one kid in town who would actually say they would use it. So that's all I have to say on it. Thanks.
Appreciate your comments. Anyone else? Yes, Kyle.
Kyle Russell, 6 Walnut Ave, Pompton Plains. I'm a little concerned. I agree, we don't want to spend more money. I think the money needs to be spent on these people, and it will affect the whole town. 241 houses, we do not want to be known as the flood town. So it's not just them, it's all of us. I'm concerned where we keep saying, well, we already spent the $25,000. In the contract, is there an out clause? If they do this geotest and it comes back where it's too spongy, it's too sandy, or whatever, do we have an out clause in our contract? Because I agree with Dave, where if you guys all knew that you would have to do this eventually, why wasn't this done before you agreed to the $25,000 design? And why didn't they come to you and say, hey, before we do a design, you're going to need this test?
I guess that's what we're doing now. I don't know.
Right. They did come to us, and we did know that. We did know we would have to do testing.
Okay, so why wasn't it done?
We knew it after that meeting.
It's kind of the chicken or the egg. To do the design, you have to do this. To do that, you have to do that. To do the design, you have to do both. We did know. This council did know.
It was possibly needed.
Okay, so before you agreed to the $25,000, you knew you would have to do a soil geosurvey to see if the land could hold such a big concrete structure.
Okay, let's just clear something up. It can hold it, they can make modifications, which costs us more money. I think, as you heard earlier in our conversations, we are now a little concerned about the whole cost of this because of the flooding issue that is suddenly been thrown at us, and the last month. So we agreed to spend the $3,700 just to take us to a certain point, but we have to reevaluate everything. And I'm not talking just the skate park, there could be other things that we need to
Could be other
evaluate.
projects.
Agreed. I think that
Because
should
it
be
becomes
our-
priority now to say,
That is
hey,
priority.
we got to draw a line in the sand with FEMA and say, we're gonna take you guys on, and what is it gonna cost us?
Right.
Because we're gonna pay the money, we have to, we have no choice.
And the people doing the geo survey, did this go out to bid, or did the
It's
design
below the
company?
threshold. I
It's
believe.
below the threshold.
Professional service.
And really,
Gotcha.
And really, the first time I remember hearing about having to do this was at that design meeting.
Okay, I believe we were kind of aware.
Well, we might have talked about it earlier, but again, I was, knowing that, I was probably the only council person that voted against the location for that reason.
Right, yeah, that's, you would think that if you had to make all these modifications.
I figured it would cost more money to build it there
Right,
than it would at the
and also
location.
Kathy, you were saying about parks, and parks, are good. It already is a park, so adding to it. And I believe at the skateboard park, you mentioned wanting to actually close some of the smaller parks around?
What's your question?
At the skate park committee, you said that some of the smaller parks in town should be closed, but then tonight you were saying how great the...
No, they're not being used. I drive around, I look around all the time, and many of our pocket parks are not being used.
They are.
There's no mention of closing any parks.
Yeah, no, there was no
That's
mention.
a discussion for another day, but that's my opinion.
She mentioned it.
Okay, well, you see which path we're starting to head down. Like I said, we got thrown some information at us in the last 30 days that has changed the
Changing the dynamics.
Yeah,
A lot of stuff.
I do
not
think
just
that
the
needs to be our
skate park.
number one priority for the sake of the
The
town.
number one priority
Absolutely
is the residents of this town, the entire town, because it could be devastating to have so many, sorry about that, I didn't mean to throw that at you.
Own thing.
Sorry.
Well, we have to figure it out too. So how are these new flood maps going to affect us?
Right.
Firstly, obviously, they're not going to affect us positively, but what exactly does that mean?
Right.
What can we do to fight them on this? Because if you read the paper, my statement was, Dave and I drove around in those areas and there was not water on those houses yet.
Oh,
Now-
correct, I have friends who have never
now
had water,
suddenly
and
it's a
now
flood
all
zone,
they're
which is-
affected, they've never had a claim.
Right.
With regard to the skate park, when do we stop doing tests? What if they do this test and they say, oh, we need another test?
Well, that's
I
what we
think we-
wait right now.
Right.
That's why I asked how long does it take. So we figure we're going to get our data in about 8 weeks, let's say.
And we've already pressing our township manager on what is it going to cost us to fight FEMA.
Right.
So we have two
Because
things
we
going.
want the best.
And
If
that's
we're
in
gonna
the
fight them,
works.
we want to go in with the best, so.
Well,
Okay.
we are going to go in with the best, not we want to.
And I'm
we
sure
will
FEMA
go.
has the best.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Anyone else? Yes.
Dave Stapp, 749 Newark Pompton Turnpike. Thank you, first of all, for approving the MOU. Appreciate your support on that. Do have a correction, though. I think we said before the pathways was October 6 and 7. It's October 7 and 8.
Saturday, Sunday.
Saturday, Sunday.
I was going
We don't
on
want
6.
Spike being disappointed and showing up on Friday. Nobody's there.
And it's from 2 to 4? What's the times? I think it's 2 to 4.
Lou, do you know what the times are for? I think it's 10 to 5 on Saturday and noon to 4 on Sunday.
And you're going to have the center open. Can people actually walk through it and see in the other rooms?
We will be, we're looking at how we can do that. There are areas that we can't, for example, we can't have them going down, have people going down the
Can
stairs.
they peek in? Can they look down the main hall?
We're going to look at how, our next step is to look at how we can do that.
All at the direction of the manager.
How safe it can be.
Lots of time.
They just need a key. Right? You just need a key.
Only a few people peek at it.
Also, Dave, another question.
Yes.
Where are we in the construction document process?
How far along are we?
Hired the architect again to create those documents based on a county requirement. We now have to do a Landscape architectural plan, thank you, I forgot the name of it. So we have to complete that before the architect can go ahead and complete his stuff, because the county has to sign off on our full plan. But it's
in the works. All right, Dave, I just wanted to make a comment. I would love to go to that event, but it's Columbus Day weekend. I'm away, so I will not be at the Pathways Tour. I'll have to wait till next year, but I'm sure it'll be a great
We'll
event.
we'll have other opportunities to get it.
Please, thank you. There you go. Uh-oh. Oh, great, I can't wait.
You can't.
All right,
She's
next.
on record saying yes.
We don't have any minutes tonight to approve, so we're going to go right into closed session. I believe we have one item for closed session tonight.
I'll make a motion to go in closed.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right.